mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes back with a book review, and today I'm going to be talking about something that's a little different for me, but it was still a pleasure to delve into, which is Africanfuturism by a number of authors. It's actually an anthology. I'll read them off. We have, sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of these incorrectly, we have Ndidi Okorafor, love her. We have T.L. Huchu. We have Dilman Dila. We have Rafayat Aliyu. We have Chilolo Samase. We have Mame Bogoma Diene. We have Mazi Inwanwu. And we have Derek Lubangakeni. So again, apologies if I mispronounce any of those. I'm super sensitive to that. And it was also edited by Wole Talabi. So, Africanfuturism. As I said earlier, Africanfuturism is an anthology that really focuses on sci-fi, futuristic type texts that are situated in Africa. This actually opens up distinguishing and differentiating between Afrofuturism and Africanfuturism. And this book really hones in on the fact that it is Africanfuturism. I wasn't really aware that there was a huge distinction, but I understand it and I think it makes sense. So Afrofuturism is something that covers the entire diaspora, right? You could be African American, you could be Black Caribbean, you could be from Africa, right? Anywhere where there are Black people, Afrofuturism, if you're writing that sci-fi futuristic genre. But here, Africanfuturism, which is actually, the term was actually honed and distinguished by Ndidi Okorafor, really focuses on Africa because she felt as if it deserved that and it was kind of being swallowed, and that Africa itself is its own, although it is the continent and each country is different, it does have its own unique culture and flair, and that needed to be differentiated and distinguished as well. So this anthology came out last year. It was actually made freely available. I will put the link for the PDF down below in the description. And it's not very long. It is 101 pages, so it's a super quick read. There are 8 stories in total, and they all offer something a little different. The thing that makes anthology sometimes hard for me is because you then you can give it one solid grade, but it's kind of like when you have a group project, right? So someone may have, if you would have done it independently, you may have gotten an A, someone else may have gotten a C, but then the collective grade is what matters because you have to weigh it all together. So that will come up here when I talk about each story. So the first story we had here was Egoli. Sorry, again, pronunciation. And it really is a story that's super kind of like calming to begin it. It has an elder. We're following her while she's getting up to go on a morning routine. We get tidbits of the life she has with her grandchildren who are in another country, and just how different times are now for her and for them and from what they were before. And it really just is kind of like an easing into the understanding of futurism, right? And just that how time changes and how it's inevitable and how it can be scary, but it can also be moving, right? It can also be inspirational. So this is a very sentimental story, but I really loved it. It was, like I said, it was a nice easing into the genre for someone like me who's not very familiar. Had a lot of different components that are very just staples in fiction in general, and it really had that emotional piece that really like lulls me in, so that I know that the character was not only cared about in the writing, but the character actually cares about those who they are discussing. So here we just have the idea of like she's there and her grandchild is like going off to space. She hasn't seen them, they've never stepped foot on the continent, but they're going off to like space or to discover that, and in the end she's just like that's incredible, but she hopes that one day they'll come visit her, which is not so far away, right? Before it's too late and before they return to the land and she is soil and she's with the ancestors. So it was very moving, and it gave you something to think about. So Sunrise was a bit of a sci-fi thriller where the main character has some technology that eventually has like an independent thought and doesn't like the way in which it is described and how humans view it, and kind of works on its own to seek like slight revenge. So it causes you to really ponder, right, in the stereotypical way when we talk about like robots and technology in the future, right, of just the power that they have if they created a mind of their own. But it was still really good and joyful to read. And also it was kind of captivating. You're like, what? Wow. Just like sometimes the conversations that would happen. So I thought it was good. I thought it was like cute. I thought it was like a fine story. So Yet Madid, the third story, this one was really good. And what it really focused on was the familial challenges, again, of having a concept of someone and then having to face that reality. And then this situation made it even more unique because her father, right, had been one could say like a political prisoner, right? He was someone who was really revolutionary before his imprisonment, really trying to create change in his country. He had been locked up for a very long time. The only idea she has of him is from her mother, and then a picture where it's the three of them on a couch and she's playing with his beard. However, the mother was not his wife, right? But that's neither here nor there. These are still the memories that she has. She was too young to really understand all of it. So now he's getting out and significant time has passed, like 20 years. So now she's an adult. He's older. He's not the man from the pictures. Her mother is still in love with him. But during that time, she's learned so much about him because in her mind, she's built him up to be some revolutionary. But then it turns out that he was doing corrupt things in the sense of he was killing off those who would oppose him, right? There's allegations of rape, right? Murder, all of these things. So she's like, whoa, this is not the man who she thought he was, and she can't undo that now that he's out of prison. It's still true for her, and he wants her help because she's kind of the head of like technology, and he wants her help to push this narrative of him because he wants to run for office again. He wants the certain position, and the mother is standing with him, and her mother and her aren't on the best of terms right now either. And she recognizes that he is garnering this attention. Even though she doesn't help him, her partner helps him because her partner works in media, is a broadcaster. And so she is faced with the dilemma of, my father could come into power, but my father is not the man, right, that I thought he was. And people are saying, oh, if her mother still stands with him, then he couldn't have been that bad. And people are rallying behind him. So she has to make a really tough decision of, do I step in and do something, or do I allow this to happen even though I fundamentally disagree with it, but this is my father. Super good. Really causes you to ponder and think about the decisions that we all make, right? Who we are as a people, who we are independently as a person, and the role we play in creating change. Rainmaker, the next story. Rainmaker was a really cute story about someone who fundamentally had been taught one thing about himself and his people, and the fact that it just didn't seem to be true, right? Your family are supposed to be rainmakers. We've been in drought forever. It's just not true, right? They're on a different planet from whence they had come, and now they need rain because it's such a lush environment. It's like, oh, if it was green, if we had rain, this could be just a phenomenal place. And the father has been trying for years to make rain, and it just hasn't been happening. And so now he knows what he knows, but he doesn't believe it. So what do you do with that, right? When you innately know something within yourself, but now you have to prove it. Can you rise to the occasion? Will you? What if you have doubts, but then someone else believes in you? How does that shift what you are able to do? So I really found it to be a very cute story that really focuses on knowing of oneself, belief in others, and how we can all collectively work together to encourage each other in our passions to be our truest and most profound selves. Oh, this story, Behind Our Irises. So this actually reminds me of a movie. It's a short movie. It's a cortometraje, which is just a short movie in Spanish. And it's just profound though, and I'll look it up and try to link it below because I don't remember the name. But in that movie, you can sell your memories. Essentially, you're selling your experiences to individuals who've never had that experience before. And you get X amount of dollars for it, but once you've sold that memory, you no longer have it. So now you have lapse in your memory, and it causes you to question, how much can you sell before you've sold too much, right? What actually holds value? And behind our irises is something similar. This is in a professional setting, because when people are in poverty, right? And the cortometraje is a little different because they came from, she was in a wealthy situation, but they had faced hard times. So she was trying to really keep up an image. Here's a situation where like this individual actually came from poverty, and they had been offered an opportunity, finding like a career, that ideal career that we're all taught to like value and stability, and they had to sign a contract. And the thing that was trippy here is right before they signed that contract, they had actually been forewarned, don't do it, because the person had a moment of clarity, like, don't do it, you have no idea what you're doing, don't do it. And she chose to do it anyway. And then every once in a while, when they're being updated, they get glimpses into what's actually reality. What's the cost to sell your soul? Is that the same? It's something along those lines. Something along those lines, like, what good does it do to gain the world and sell your soul? So that's the question here, because what do you lose when you sell out yourself? So I think that was another really good one. So for Kwame, this was one that I didn't really enjoy, but it was really about love and loyalty, and who are you loyal to, right? Like, who are you loyal to? So I found it was okay. Really more of a love story, kind of suspenseful, not enough for me to really be engaged, but I thought it was all right. All right, Fruit of the Calabash. This one was interesting. So this one was a story that really focuses on humans' abilities to create something from nothing and to create life. So that's what this one was about. It was interesting. And how far do we take science, and what do you do when essentially science is working against the spirit realm, and how do you level that? Overall, I think it was a good story. It was pretty interesting. It was a story that was long enough to be as long as it was. It had a good lesson. Didn't love it, but I thought it was good. And the final one, Lecky Lecky. I think that's correct. This one was the one. If there were any stories in this anthology that could have been full works or full novel, this one is it. So this one really focuses on multitude of things, honestly. Our souls on this realm and the next realm, and if we can transcend even now, and if we can, and those we leave behind, and what we leave them behind to suffer with and from, and are we able to connect with them and support them from the other side, and what we don't do now actually impacts the next generation. This one had so many just layers. Even a dream deferred, right? Or what if you had no real dream, right? Because some people, I think, are afraid to acknowledge that they have dreams. So you're like, it's whatever. But then what if that whatever actually becomes a situation, and now you don't have that, right? And what are you left with? So this one I just thought was really good. It could have been a full-length novel. There was a lot to unpack here in a short number of pages. So this one I thought was one of the highlights of the anthology. There was one quote that I really liked here, and it was that evil flows where evil flows. And I think that's like evil in itself. What does that mean, right? What is evil? How does it impact all of us? And how we all have to determine and define that for ourselves. I thought was like a thread and a theme here, and really determining what it is. And is it technology? Is it ourselves? Is it our spirits, right? So overall, I think those are just some themes, that had to be kind of delved into here, and figuring out what makes the most sense for you in an advanced society. So I thought it was good. It was a quick read, enjoyable read. I would definitely recommend it to all of you. If I had to give it a grade on a scale of A to F, it would be a solid B. Again, the stories that I preferred like waxed and waned. Some I preferred more than others, but overall I thought it was like a really solid and strong effort, and I definitely think that everyone can and should check it out. So again, I'll leave the link in the description box below, and also I will also link the cortometraje that I really like, that movie. It's short, It's in Spanish. I believe you can do closed captioning to translate if you need to, but overall I think it's another good one that gets into that sci-fi, right, fantasy realm that really causes us to question who we are as a society and a people. So I would absolutely say check it out. All right, y'all, that is it for me. More book reviews to come. My April reads, I'll also be coming out with that pretty soon. So as always, I am MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. And until next time, stay safe and be kind to each other. Odabo. Also, for those of you inquiring, I do still have buttons, my MsMalcolmHughes pins, and the details on how to get those are below.